every single person that you acted with, you know that at some point you have that connection with them, and you can always pick up the phone and just have a conversation with them about anything. I think it just, you meet people, you build connections, you just grow as a person exponentially, which is a wonderful experience.
I can definitely second that, because me being in an IIM and that hostel life, you meet people pan-India, and exactly like what you describe is what it is, because you get to connect with so many people. And definitely I don't talk to each and every one in my batch, but I know when I go up to them, I call them, I ask them for some help, they will be there for me, and that feeling is just overwhelming, because having people to help you at any time is definitely what you need to get through in life. Welcome, ma'am, to Discorso, the IIMBG podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're glad to have you here, ma'am. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's been a tough day in Bangalore, as always, with the traffic. Nothing ever seizes the traffic in Bangalore. But it's been, I'm happy to be here and happy to have this discussion with you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a pleasure. Ma'am, I'd like to start with a personal anecdote, which is when I saw you for the first time in school and I saw that you're a French teacher, I immediately realized that you're the Surf Excel lady. You're that lady that acted in that ad in Tamil where the kid gets his shirt all brown and you're the mom of it. And
who says, don't worry, I'll fix this for
I'll
you.
fix this. And that time, in that moment, I realized that why is an actress here? Why is she teaching at our school when she could be out there doing so many great films or advertisements? Why is she teaching, especially at our school? So that was my first thought. But then when I researched about you, when I talked to you recently, I realized that no, you have had such a different background, such a diverse experience than most of us. And you've gone from having that passion to perform arts, from performing arts to going into law, to pursuing law, to acting in different films, advertisements, and then finally you landed up as a teacher at our school, which makes our whole team really curious about what are the different experiences that led to this eventuality, what really happened, and which is why we really wanted you to be on our podcast, and that's what got us here.
Well, I think after doing so many things, it's finally nice to finally get that recognition.
Yes,
but no, having said that, I think I never planned for this. Quite honestly, the diversity that you talk about, it may seem, different, like you had mentioned, but I don't think it was planned. I think ever since I was a kid, I always I was starry-eyed, not really about celebrities, but more so I wanted to be in the glamour industry, whether it was acting or whether wanting to be Miss India. Miss India didn't come through because I didn't end up being very tall. I did although make it to the top 12 I have the newspaper clipping of that in a South zone around that took place in Bangalore.
Oh wow. Okay.
I ended up being in the top 12 for that. So then I think in the end, when I asked them why I didn't make it through, beyond that, they said, oh no, we're looking for girls who are slightly taller. And I was like, oh damn, genetics can't be a reason for this. But that was it. And then I went, of course, I was always very keen. I was never a science student. I was always a bit of arts and English and languages. I always loved all of that. So I think that and then when I was in high school, I decided to join these dance classes, which introduced me into fashion and everything. And then slowly, I always knew that I wanted to do something with the performing arts. Okay. When I went to Mount Carmel, which again opened many gateways, because Mount Carmel is very, very active on the
extracurricular front. Yeah.
That also really helped. And I think as a result, the transition to acting was very natural. But I knew that after I finished my 12th, I was either going to do journalism or I was going to do law. I was very confused at that point. So I thought, hey, I think I was leaning more towards journalism. I took that up. And after those 3 years, I did an acting workshop, loved it. Then I went on to study law thereafter. Through my 3 years at law school, I also transitioned into becoming an actor. I did a whole bunch of advertisements. I did a lot of theatre. And I think that was, as a student, I was able to sort of balance between the two, strike a balance between the two. But I think once I started working as a lawyer, I had to give it my 100% dedication. There was no other way. And then I practiced law for 3 years, and I realized that it wasn't the kind of work-life balance that was lacking in it wasn't my cup of tea. And I decided to no longer pursue the law, at least take a sabbatical for some time. And then I think I wanted to dedicate an entire year just to doing films, because I had done advertisements, I had done theatre, but I hadn't had the chance to do films. Like one of my films had released, but I wanted to do more. Then in that 1 year off, I managed to do 3 regional films, 3 Kannada films, and also a bunch of advertisements in theatre as well in that 1 year. But I knew that I wanted to give, and I think by then I had started seeing my current husband, and I was very, at that point it was like a turning point, because I was going to settle down with him eventually, and then I thought I needed something more stable for myself. And then the pandemic hit. I looked for jobs for about 6 months. It was a very hair-raising experience. It was so difficult.
For everyone it was, I guess.
Yeah, it really was. And then I landed this job in Jan 2021. Luckily, the same year that I was getting married, so I wasn't entering a marriage without a job. That was I was very particular about that I had to have a stable job when I was entering into a marriage. And here I am today at BNS, and happy to be, because it's been the most fulfilling job I've ever had.
Oh, that's a strong statement after having so many jobs.
Yes, it really has, because it's something that I enjoy. It gives me some time for myself as well, and it is something that I thoroughly find fulfilling.
So,
I just enjoy
will you be continuing acting, or will you not be pursuing it further?
I think the actor in me will never die, quite frankly, but I don't know if I'm as actively pursuing it anymore, because there is a lot of personal and professional commitments, which doesn't give me as much time to do acting. But say I have a summer vacation, and if I want to maybe go do an ad or two, I would probably send in an audition. But then again, it depends on whether I get chosen, all of that. So I would never stop trying to be a part of either an advertisement or plays. Unfortunately, I think are harder to do, although it's a beautiful craft. Your return on investment is very low. You're probably going to be dedicating 2-3 months to rehearsals, right? But in the end, they're very low paying, or there sometimes isn't even payment in theatre.
Correct.
So it is. I don't know if I have that bandwidth anymore to
give it so much time.
But yes, I will always act. In fact, I'm one of the teachers spearheading the theatre club in BNS.
That's nice. That's really good.
I think there's always that portion in me that will always be
associated with theatre.
Dedicated to acting, for sure.
Ma'am, but like after hearing your whole story, there must have been so many turning points where you decided, okay, now I'm going to pursue law instead of journalism. I'm going to do acting, and now I'm not going to do law. So there are a lot of trade-offs that I see when you're pursuing such an unconventional career. So what do you have to say about these points where you're like, okay, no, I'm going to go ahead with this. I'm going to do this decision, and I just hope this turns out to be right. So how do you take that path?
Okay, so like I said, every choice that I made was either circumstantial, or it was just a natural thing. It was never part of the plan. The original plan was that I do journalism and then I do law. That was something that I knew. But I think when I chose to do acting, it was purely out of the love for the craft, purely out of passion for it. Also, when you're younger, you're less experienced, and you probably make that choice because you love it, not thinking of the practicality of it, right? And once you're in the profession, you learn from either failed auditions, or you learn from an ad that you loved shooting for, but then it never comes out.
I see.
So there are a whole bunch of things that you learn over time, and you just sort of like, luckily for me, I think I've sent you all the links. I've had a whole bunch of ads that I've done.
Yes.
But there was one ad that I did for, I think, an oil brand, cooking oil
Sunlight,
brand.
is it?
No, it was not Sunlight.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I can mention the brand, but it was a cooking oil brand. And I remember we shot for that in Mumbai for an entire day. It was an entire day shoot.
Oh wow.
For what, like a 30-second advertisement, right? And I remember I kept following up with the casting people, with the team, and they never sent me the link. And at that point, I knew that, you know what, this ad is probably not going to come out. So coming back to your point, like I think when I chose acting, I knew that I wanted it, but I didn't think of the practicality of it. But once I started experiencing the ups and downs of the career is when I decided to find something more stable. Because when you're 20, in your early 20s, when you're in your late teens or early 20s, you're probably okay experimenting, okay doing things that are out of the box.
I agree with that.
But at least for me, I know several friends of mine who are still so courageous and who are still so passionate and driven enough to do things, to dedicate their lives to acting. But I think everyone's got their reasons, everyone's got their choices to stay or to step out. For me, my choice was stability, and I think having a stable job is one thing that I knew for sure that I wanted. That's how the transition from acting to teaching happened.
I see. That's really nice. But ma'am, something that I realized while you were saying of acting, teaching and lawyer was that all of them have this undertone where all of them are related to communication. And the better you communicate, the better you are at your job eventually. And it's for all three of these. So that's something I find curious. So was it that you landed upon them, or is it that communication is your strong suit? Because all of these are skill-based, I understand that. Yes. And you start from the rock bottom and you build your way up through it and you learn on the go. There is no prior learning, very less of that. And the more you do it, the more you learn.
Exactly.
So how did you exactly go about these three, which they have that connection, but they all are different?
Yeah, they're very different for sure. But like you said, I think what ties them all together is the communication aspect. And be it as a lawyer, or be it as an actor, or as a teacher for that matter, you're interacting with people on a daily basis. You're either presenting in court, you're presenting your case in court, or you are teaching in front of a classroom, or you are acting in front of a camera, right? I mean, it's a very interesting coincidence which I hadn't thought of until we had our initial discussions about the podcast. I hadn't really thought about it, but then it struck me when you said it. I was like, yeah, of course, there is a very interesting tie. There is a thread that ties all these things together. So no, I don't know if it was. I think it's purely coincidental. But maybe, like you said, inherently I might be someone who chooses professions that sort of make it easier for me, because these are my strengths.
Yeah, exactly. These are the strengths.
Having, be it presenting in court or be it acting in front of a camera, these are things that I enjoy doing. For example, if I could also do corporate law as a lawyer, but I knew that I wanted to present before court. I knew that I wanted to litigate, so which is why I think that was a choice again. So I think maybe because I know that this is something that I enjoy doing, and that could have been conscious or a very subconscious choice. I don't know, but it just never struck me until we had this discussion. But like you said, it is very valid, and yes, it could be because this was something that I was inherently enjoying, inherently something that I was good at, and that's probably why there was that.
Definitely makes sense that you capitalize on your strengths, and even though this happened subconsciously, you know that now looking back at it, all these were my strengths, and this happened. This is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Ma'am, now I would like to take a deep dive into the Kannada film industry, because you've been a part of it for the past few years. You've acted in various films and advertisements. So what I really want to know is that, is it as ruthless as compared to the Bollywood film industry? Because we've heard a lot of these rumors of the Bollywood film industry, that there's a lot of nepotism or favoritism involved in it, and people who even don't act that well get good roles, but people who might act really well still don't end up getting the good roles. So there are a lot of rumors. We don't know how much of that is true, but what do you think is the comparison to it with the Kannada film industry?
Nepotism is such a debated topic, but it's so sad that it's in India at least, the nepotism debate restricts itself to films. I don't think that's the case. Nepotism, in my opinion, exists in every industry.
True.
Be it in medicine, be it in law. Like I know so many lawyers whose fathers have been judges, and they become senior counsels, and then they become judges themselves. So it exists in every industry. It's not restricted to only films. Sure, it is. I mean, it is unfair. It is difficult, more difficult for the ones who have to start afresh, who don't have any relatives in the industry. But that's the case in every profession. Coming to the Kannada film industry, I'm just very, very privileged and happy and blessed to have been a part of it. I mean, to still be a part of it technically, because one of my films is yet to release.
Yes, Jewel Thief.
Yes, Jewel Thief. And I'm super happy to be a part of it. It has its pros and cons,
Yes.
I'll be honest. There are delays sometimes, but also they're extremely professional. Everyone's everyone's very polite, everyone's very kind, everyone's very warm and understanding. They don't question you if you take an extra take for anything. It's a wonderful place to be. Having said that, I think scope for improvement, definitely. The Kannada film industry or any of, there is scope for improvement in any industry in my opinion, but since I've worked in this industry, I can say that I think scripts wise there is a huge scope for improvement.
Okay.
But what I'm happy to see these days is that there are so many new directors who haven't really come from film families even, who are really, really making a mark for themselves. Take the director of Kantara, if you watch that film.
It's a really great,
Shetty, right?
it's a really good film.
He's a phenomenal director and writer.
True.
And on top of that, he acted in the film as well. So you can imagine the powerhouse of talent that he is. So I think as a result, there is a huge, there is scope for improvement, and then there are baby steps and leaps happening from directors like these, which is putting the Kannada film industry on the global map, right? So I don't think there is definitely hope, but I think for now, since I'm a very minute part of it, I'm very happy to be a part of the industry, and I don't think I have enough or experience or weightage in the industry to say more. I'm just happy to be a part of it.
But definitely, even the KGF series, and there's this movie 7-7 Charlie.
Yes.
All of these have gone to really, they've gone and hit the global market, and they have really made a mark. Especially when anyone talks about the southern film industry, it's not before. At least it was limited to the south. It's like, have you watched this movie? But now all over India, also you're seeing people watching all these movies
and talking
about them. Exactly. So that's something that I've seen that yes, Kannada film industry is making a mark. Especially in the south, not only in the south but also all over India and globally. Exactly. And talking about new directors coming in, that's such a cool thing that other directors who are not even from acting families are coming in and making a mark here. So that is something that's good to hear, at least in the film industry. Definitely.
I think I really look up to these new age directors. Even my director Hemant Rao, who directed Kabaludari, he's coming up with another film which is a romance film, and it looks so intriguing. So the kind of scripts that people can write and the scope for talent in the industry is huge. There is a very, if people just bring in their scripts and if they're given the opportunities, I'm sure our industry will go places. But I think that's where there's a slight shaky part. Not everyone gets to showcasing their scripts, right? So I think that's the various factors. It could be politics, it could be just a lack of luck, because I think as much as we think, people are so talented, they write so well, they act or direct so well, I think a huge part of in this industry, you need luck. Luck plays a massive factor.
Being in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. Being in the right place at the right time is exactly how I would put it. And sometimes even if you aren't in the right place at the right time in this moment, it's about having the patience to create those opportunities for yourself.
Exactly, subconscious.
I would have loved to, but I also feel I was educated. I had 2 degrees. I did not know if I wanted to give it that much time and live a life which was financially not very viable, slightly unstable.
The stability.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm also a human being who wants to travel, who wants to go travel overseas, travel within India. And if I sat down just waiting for the right opportunities, I probably wouldn't have the wherewithal or the means to travel, for example.
You'd miss out on a lot of other opportunities.
Exactly.
Definitely. That is one of the trade-offs.
We veered from Kannada film industry back to stability, but I think for me personally, I would have loved if I given a choice, if I was say from a rich family or rolling in wealth, given a choice, I would spend more time. But I don't think, and touch wood today, I have no regrets. I have no regrets that I didn't give it more time or that I didn't create more opportunities for myself. I think I'm just happy that I had the opportunity to be a part of these films, and happy now to be recognized for it by you all, for sure. And but coming back to the industry, it is a very warm and welcoming place, and very professional. And I think, like I said, plenty of miles to go, but there's a lot of scope for improvement.
I think that the part of where you don't have any regrets also goes to show that because you were given the opportunity of being in the Kannada film industry and taking that year off the sabbatical from law, so you were there and you experienced it. And once you've experienced it, and then you've taken an informed decision of whether you want to go back or whether you want to switch your career. So that's why I guess there are no regrets so as to. But if you did not explore the film industry on the other hand, and you only pursued love, then you would never know.
I probably
and then
would
you
have
would
regrets for sure. I would have said, hey, one film released of mine, I was on the silver screen, but I never tried to do more.
Exactly.
And I probably would have felt bad at like say a 50 or a 45.
Yeah.
But I'm just glad that in my 20s to 30s, I managed to do this, and I'm happy about it.
That's really great. Especially so many different experiences just accumulated into this one small person.
Thank you.
And ma'am, I also noticed when I was researching about you that you had won a Best Actress award, which is really amazing for a play called Keeping Annabelle, if I'm not wrong, right? Yes. So I wanted to know, how did those emotions come into play that when you won the award, and also when you were, of course, learning for this role, what were the range of emotions that you went through from learning how to go about the role, from winning the award, and what impact did all of this have on your career? Did it want you to pursue more? Did it want you to take that hustle culture? Or did you be like, okay, now I've won it, this is my time, and now I'm going to switch careers?
Well, Keeping Annabelle was a very interesting play. Okay, let's start off with that. I think it was a play that sort of, it was a short play, it was a 10-minute play. But it was so beautifully written because it starts off with, it's a beautiful setting, okay? And when I say beautiful, I don't mean it's gorgeous aesthetically. What I mean is it starts off and it intrigues the audience from the word go. But the first scene of the play was me tied up to a chair in the center of the stage with a gunny bag over my head. And I'm just like wailing, saying, where am I? What am I doing here? What's the point of this? Why? Please save, please help me. I haven't done anything wrong. It's me just crying for help. And then there's this switch where my character then transitions into falling in love with her abductor.
Okay. Oh my God.
So it is the strange switch and the roller coaster of emotions that the girl goes through is exactly what I think when I first read it just drew me to the play. And the person directing it was happy that I was a part of it, thankfully. I did audition for the part, even though it was a 10-minute play, I auditioned for it. And I was so happy to have landed that role because I think that role and that award, like you mentioned, was a turning point for me as an actor because I didn't thankfully give up then. That was in 2015 and I did hustle for a while after that. But I think when you're validated, even if it is in a theatre festival, when you're validated as an actor, it feels great. Like any award, even when I won my all-rounder award in law school, when I graduated during the valedictory, I won an award which said Best All-Round Performer. It was a validation for me being academically that I did well academically and that I was able to take part in extracurriculars and make the school proud. So I think awards do help. I just sort of it acts as an impetus for you to jump higher and dream bigger. And I did go on to pursue a lot more after that, after the award. And I think for me that was a turning point because it's just for me as a person, I think I generally am someone who has a bit of a low self-esteem. I don't know if I have the highest
seem to be.
Probably, but I know the internal battles. So, but I think that award sort of helped me boost my self-esteem, boost my self-esteem. And it was a turning point because then I realized that I wanted to do this more and I wanted to pursue acting more, dig deeper into the profession.
Definitely.
And that helped. The fact that I won the award was
a turning point.
Yeah, was definitely a turning point.
So it helped you make the decision that yes, now I'm going to go into acting.
Yes.
That's great.
And I think I was in my second year of law school back then, 2015.
So you were pretty young too.
Yeah,
you were in your 20s.
Yeah, I was in my early 20s. Yeah. I should have been about 22 or so.
Okay.
And it was a turning point, and I'm just happy to have been a part of that theatre festival.
Definitely.
And you were asking me about the theatre festival. It was a wonderful experience because there were not just people from Bangalore, there were people from all over India who had either contributed as a writer or who had contributed as who would come to direct or would come to act. So it was a wonderful experience. You got to meet so many people.
Definitely.
In the end, although every single play is disjointed, in the end you're putting up one performance for the audience. It's a cohesive effort for the audience, right? So it was a wonderful experience. I think through theatre I've met so many wonderful people.
I see.
And whether we're in touch today or not, when we meet, that connection that we have is so strong.
Yes.
Because we've rehearsed with these guys. It's not just in the Short and Sweet Theatre Festival, right? It's even full-length plays that I've done. I've rehearsed with actors for 2 months, 3 months, and I know for a fact that, and the interesting thing is, one of my actors who was in the same play as me, it was the Susification of a Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah.
He is also my co-actor in Jewel Thief.
Oh wow.
So it's been a wonderful journey with him. So I think it's you just make really strong connections, and every single person that you acted with, you know that at some point you have that connection with them, and you can always pick up the phone and just have a conversation with them about anything.
That's
I think it just you meet people, you build connections, you just grow as a person exponentially, which is a wonderful experience.
I can definitely second that, because me being in an IIM and that hostel life, you meet people pan-India, and exactly like what you describe is what it is, because you get to connect with so many people. And definitely I don't talk to each and every one in my batch, but I know when I go up to them, I call them, I ask them for some help, they will be there for me, and that feeling is just overwhelming, because having people to help you at any time is definitely what you need to get through in life. And having that is great. So
I think hostel life is something I've never had. Now it's too late for that.
But it is what you describe it to be, extremely. Because you meet people from every single place, and the different experiences that you have, and you share them with other people, and then they share their experiences, and then you realize, everyone's life isn't perfect, but they all have been through a roller coaster of a journey. So that is really cool. I'm talking about the time when you transitioned into teaching from acting. How was the career shift, and what was the experience that pushed you towards this teaching, and how did you end up liking this career, you can say?
I think I got into teaching by chance. The primary goal that I had in mind when I was looking for jobs when the pandemic hit was French. So I was looking for, I think French is my first love when it comes to languages. Of course, English and Kannada are all my languages that I've known since I was a child. But French is the first language I ever learned, right? Going for classes and actually learning something new. And I fell in love with it from the word go. I started off learning French when I was in 11th, when I was in first PUC in Mount Carmel. And I think I loved it ever since, and I went on to do my C1 advanced level at the Alliance Française. So I think through French is how I got into teaching. How did I, the shift from acting to teaching was, like I said again, a very natural choice. It came from wanting to have stability in my life. But it came at a very, very unpleasant time because of the pandemic.
Okay, because of the pandemic.
So I took my year off from June 2019 to June 2020. And in June 2020, we were well into the first wave of the pandemic. And people were not hiring as much. There was a dearth of jobs. There was a dearth of people looking for, the people recruiting. And from June, I think I would have started applying towards mid-June or so, till December. I think I've applied to over 15 schools for teaching.
Oh wow.
I had applied to, I can still go back to my email and keep looking on this school, dear principal, or to whomsoever it may concern, whatever. So I remember applying to over 15 schools. I think I applied, and I was also looking for in-house legal jobs, because I think after having practiced law as a litigator for 3 years, I knew that I didn't want to go back to litigation. I knew that I wanted to do law, but I wasn't. Since the pandemic hit, I thought I should diversify my options and also apply for French jobs. And applied to over 7-8 companies, out of which I think 2 I heard back from, but then in the final stage of the interview, I unfortunately didn't make it through. But finally, my teacher, who I was doing my C1 level with at that point, put out a forward on the group saying, Vidya Niketan is looking for French teachers. And I was like, well, I jumped at the opportunity. I was like, yes, ma'am, I'm interested. So she said, okay, fine, just email them. This is their ID. So I sent them an email. And Jan, I think 3rd or 2nd of Jan, I don't remember exactly, but I remember getting an email from them saying, please come to school on Jan 5th and meet the principal and the headmistress. I was so happy. I was like, oh my god, finally there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And then I went to school and I met Lalita ma'am and Anita ma'am. And they were, and the thing is, whatever job I was getting into, I wanted to be honest with them about my past.
True.
I knew I wanted to talk about my acting, I knew I wanted to talk about my law. And I told them, and for me, I think they were never ever narrow-minded about it at any point. They said, you know what, we in fact, it's amazing that you've done so many things, and we don't want to let that affect our judgment. So they offered me the job, and they offered it to me with open arms without judging me for my, so many years that I dedicated to acting, or be it that I did 3 years of law. They never once said, but are you sure you want to do this, or we don't know if we can count on you for this.
Correct.
They said,
because you're new to this.
Had a past. We're looking for teachers, and we think you're a dynamic young girl, so we'd like for you to be a part of part of BNS. And it was still the middle of the academic year, so they didn't want to take me in right away. So they said, from the next academic year, we'll have you at BNS. And I started in May 2021, and unfortunately or fortunately, now looking back, I don't know what it is, but I started virtually, because I think in 2021 was the Delta waves, which was even more severe. So I think I started virtually, but it was a very interesting experience. Wonderful kids. I've never had any student at BNS who's been disrespectful or rude or any such. And I mean this from my heart. Touch wood, I've never had that experience. Of course, there are the awkward ones. There are the unruly, misbehaved kids. But I mean, it's manageable. It's really manageable. And I even tell Anita ma'am this all the time. Keep saying that. I mean, I know that our kids can get unruly and that they're probably going to get scolded more often than not. But I've never had major struggles. So I think the work atmosphere, the wonderful colleagues, the students who would listen even if it took you 3-4 times, they would eventually listen. I think all of that really helped my transition become smoother. Initially, obviously, to make lesson plans was obviously very different from drafting a plain or a written statement. It's so different from what I did earlier. But I think just I had again support from the principals, from the management. I had a colleague who's also a French teacher who helped me out in various ways. So I think all that made the transition fairly easy.
True. But what I really want to know is, were you happy? Because acting, you're on a screen, you're on the silver screen, and it caters to a huge audience. But while teaching, it's only those 30 young kids that you get to talk to, and that 1 hour you have, and it's like, okay, this 1 hour, I'm going to make the most of it, and I want this to be the most impactful 1 hour you guys have had.
Absolutely.
But on the screen, it's to a mass audience, and you cater to everyone from different walks of life. Maybe the rich, it may be the poor, everyone. So how was that feeling that, okay, now I just get to shape young minds? Was that fulfilling? Was that more fulfilling? Or